right, ladies, we're starting on tradition 1 today. So we are going to start in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous on page 562 with the short form. Tradition 1 short form reads, "Our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity." And then we'll go to page 563, the long form of Tradition 1. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is but a small part of a great whole. AA must continue to live, or most of us will surely die. Hence, our common welfare comes first, but individual welfare follows close after. Next reading is going to be from the pamphlet, The 12 Traditions Illustrated, and it says, the first tradition, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. Our brother, the noisy drunk, affords the simplest illustration of this tradition. If he insists on disrupting the meeting, we invite him to leave, and we bring him back when he's in better shape to hear the message. We are putting the common welfare first, but it is in his welfare too. If he's ever going to get sober, the group must go on functioning, ready for him. Yet, he is only one rare aspect of the problem. When we do get sober in AA, we shed a few small bits of the big ego. We admit, I can't handle alcohol, and I can't stay away from it on my own. Fine so far. Then we find there is plenty of that ego still with us. It may lead us to take another member's inventories and to gossip about their supposed shortcomings. It may lure us into hogging the floor at every discussion meeting. Oh well, it's a selfish program, isn't it? After all the miseries of active alcoholism, why shouldn't we indulge ourselves a little? We all know one good reason why we shouldn't. Self-indulgence of this kind is an immediate personal danger. It threatens the individual's own sobriety. More than that, it threatens the very basis of our sobriety, the unity of the AA group. For a self-righteous gossip can damage the mutual trust that is vital to every group. And a compulsive talker can ruin the effectiveness of a discussion meeting. I've stopped going to that group. Nobody but Joe can get a word in edgewise. When AA was very young, the first members clearly saw the preservation of its unity as a life or death matter for themselves and for the alcoholics still unrecovered. The first tradition states this aim, and it is the common aim of all the 12 traditions. When AA reached the age of 35, the aim was restated in the theme of the 1970s International Convention. To this we owe to AA's future, to place our common welfare first, to keep our fellowship united. For on AA unity depend our lives and the lives of those to come. Each of the 11 traditions explains one specific way to protect the unity of the fellowship and the AA group. Those early members quickly recognized power drivers as potential group wreckers, and they're still around. The members who are always sure that they're always right. The members who are happily ready to assume all the burdens of leadership and grimly unwilling to share them, let alone give them up. But a group does need officers. How can we cope with this dilemma? Tradition 2 provides the answer. All right, and now we will go to 12 steps and 12 traditions, commonly known as the 12 by 12. And we will go around the room and let you ladies read on step 1, which is on page 21. So, Bev, you had your hand up first. Could you start us off on page 21, please?
Sure, but mine's 129.
Oh God, I'm on step 1. It's Friday.
It's tradition.
Doo-doo-doo.
Tradition 1. It's on page 129 of the 12 and 12.
Thank you.
Our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. The unity of Alcoholics Anonymous is the most important, most cherished quality our sobriety has. Our lives, the lives of all to come, depend squarely upon it. We stay whole or AA dies. Without unity, the heart of AA would cease to beat. Our world arteries would no longer carry the life-giving grace of God. His gift to us would be spent aimlessly. Back again in their caves, alcoholics would reproach us and say, what a great thing AA might have been. Do you want me to keep reading or, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we'll do 1 page per person.
Okay. Does this mean, some will anxiously ask, that in AA the individual doesn't count for much? Is he to be dominated by his group and swallowed up in it? We may certainly answer this question with a loud no. We believe that there isn't a fellowship on earth which lavishes more devoted care upon its individual members. Surely there is none which more jealously guards the individual's right to think, talk, and act as he wishes. No AA can compel another to do anything. Nobody can be punished or expelled. Our 12 steps to recovery are suggestions. The 12 traditions which guarantee AA's unity contain not a single don't. They repeatedly say we ought, but never you must. To many minds, all this liberty for the individual spells sheer anarchy. Every newcomer, every friend who looks at AA for the first time is greatly puzzled. You want me to stop there?
Sure. Okay. And then we will go to next on the list is MJ. Oh, gotta unmute, love.
Thought I did. Good?
Yes.
I'm MJ. I'm an alcoholic. They see liberty verging on license, yet they recognize at once that AA has an irresistible strength of purpose and action. How, they ask, can such a crowd of anarchists function at all? How can they possibly place their common welfare first? What in heaven's name holds them together? Those who look closely soon have the key to this strange paradox. The AA member has to conform to the principles of recovery. His life actually depends upon obedience to spiritual principles. If he deviates too far, the penalty is sure and swift. He sickens and dies. At first he goes along because he must, but later he discovers a way of life he really wants to live. Moreover, he finds he cannot keep this priceless gift unless he gives it away. Neither he nor anybody else can survive unless he carries the AA message. The moment this 12-step work forms a group, another discovery is made. That most individuals cannot recover unless there is a group. Realization dawns that he is but a small part of a great whole, that no personal sacrifice is too great for preservation of the fellowship. He learns that the clamor of desires and ambitions within him must be silenced whenever these could damage the group. It becomes plain that the group must survive or the individual will not.
Thank you so much. And then we will go to Marianne, had her hand up. You're unmuted, you're good.
Hi, I'm Marianne. I'm an alcoholic. So at the onset, how best to live and work together as groups become the prime question. In the world about us, we saw personalities destroying whole peoples. The struggle of wealth, power, and prestige was tearing humanity apart as never before. If strong people were stalemated in the search for peace and harmony, what was to become of our erratic band of alcoholics. As we had once struggled and prayed for individual recovery, just so earnestly did we commence to quest for the principles through which AA itself might survive. On the veils of experience, the structure of our society was hammered out. Countless times in as many cities and hamlets, we reenacted the story of Eddie Rickenbacker and his courageous company when their plane crashed in the Pacific. Like us, they had suddenly found themselves saved from death, but still floating upon a perilous sea. How well they saw that their common welfare came first. None might become selfish of water or bread. Each needed to consider the others, and in abating faith, they knew they must find their real strength. And this they did find, in measures to transcend all of the defects of their frail craft, every test of uncertainty, pain, fear, and despair, and even the death of one. Thus it has been with AA. By faith and by works, we have been able to build upon the lesson of the incredible experience. They live today in the 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous, which, God willing, shall sustain us in unity for as long as He may need us.
Thank you so much, Bev, MJ, and Marianne, for reading from the 12 by 12. These are the traditions checklist from the AA Grapevine, and you can find this with a Google search and print it out. I think it's only 6 pages or so, but they are great. So I will read out the first 10 questions, which are for tradition 1, and then we'll open it up for discussion. And then maybe midway through the discussion, we'll read them again just as a refresher. So here it goes. Tradition 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. Number 1, am I in my group a healing, mending, integrating person, or am I divisive? What about gossip and taking other members' inventory? 2, am I a peacemaker? Or do I, with pious preludes such as just for the sake of discussion, plunge into an argument? 3, am I gentle with those who rub me the wrong way? Or am I abrasive? 4, do I make competitive AA remarks such as comparing one group with another or contrasting AA in one place with AA in another? 5, do I put down some AA activities as if I were superior for not participating in this or that aspect of AA? 6, am I informed about AA as a whole? Do I support in every way I can AA as a whole, or just the parts I understand and approve of? 7, am I considerate of AA members as I want them to be of me? 8, do I spout platitudes about love while indulging in and secretly justifying behavior that bristles with hostility? 9, do I go to enough AA meetings or read enough AA literature to really keep in touch? 10, do I share with AA all of me, the good and the bad, accepting as well as giving the help of the fellowship? So I really love these 10 questions. I think they really get the thought juices flowing. For me, when I first came into the fellowship, I was just a seat filler. I just sat in a chair and I left and I didn't know anything. And for me, getting to go to a lot of different meetings, getting to travel and attend a lot of different meetings, and getting involved in service outside of my home group on the district and area level was able to let me see how AA must stay together as a whole. Each group, and it's get to more of the traditions later, but each group is a little bit different, but it's all the same. And, in my younger days of AA, I was guilty of divisive behavior. And I wasn't the peacekeeper. I tended to engage in gossip, and I didn't see how it harmed not only the AA group, but myself as an individual. And so with that, I was able to grow personally and emotionally through learning this tradition as well. Being someone who is a peacemaker, I'm able to objectively remove my personal thoughts and opinions and think of the well-being of AA as a whole and stick to that and maintain that tone and not get elevated or upset. The one I kind of am guilty of, and I will admit that I'm guilty, is comparing and contrasting. I am very guilty of that. I love big book sobriety. I love solution-based meetings. It saved my ass, and I'm partial to it. So on that note, I can say sometimes I'm a little guilty of saying, oh, it's kind of a fellowship-based meeting and I prefer solution-based meetings. So if anything I was guilty of, that would be my guilty pleasure or downfall, however you want to say. So are the hands up still that we have the big books or the 12 by 12s to read, or can I just start calling on people? Because I see Marla, you've got your hand up. I'm going to call on you. Marla? Is she? I can't see her. All right. Well, Marla, there you go.
All right. So what page are we on? Because I just got up to get some paper.
Oh, we're traditions, speaking on our experience on tradition 1.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, anyways, I was laughing because I have told everybody about this line by line big book study when you were just talking, Kim, making your confession. So as I've been on a crusade to get everybody in the world to come to Kim is the best, and it's the big book study forever, it's rah rah. So it's kind of funny when you said that, but it's not done meanly or anything. But sometimes people don't know the resources, or I don't know, it's just there's a good energy here for women in particular, so thanks. I just think the traditions in general, I'll just say this and be quiet, is, I had, when I first came in, I did many of the things that they accuse us of doing. I was like a know-it-all, or talked too much, or didn't talk at all. And what I learned after watching other people and having some nice ladies say a few, not a lot, but a few choice things, that I began to see that it's not helpful to the rest of the group or myself if I just am running my mouth. So I'm glad for those women. It's kind of funny. After I'd been in the fellowship for about 10 years, we were getting ready to leave. This one table, we went to the same meeting for a while. And these two ladies they started talking, they said, isn't Marla, remember how crazy Marla was when she first got here? And I was like, well, yeah, I'm right here. And they go, we know. And it's like, it's nice to have people who know what the traditions are and why we need them and can gently bring people in without being drill sergeants are crazy themselves, so in a kind way. And it's really helped me in so many other areas of my life. So I'm very excited to keep working on this, so thanks. And I do have the illustrated one, and that is really cool, so thanks, Kim, and everybody else.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I am so glad I had a sponsor that stressed the importance of the traditions once you went through the big book. Lisa G.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, everybody. It's really, really great to be here on time or early for the beginning of our traditions deep dive, and I was fortunate enough to have met our outgoing GSR 220 at her first meeting with the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous at a traditions meeting in the auditorium at the North Shore Atlanta Club in North Vancouver, and it was many years ago. And I want to say it was within the first 5 years of my sobriety that I did my first workshop for this topic. And yes, I have been divisive. I have been contrary, and it's come up at group inventory meetings. And for me, the reason I was labeled contentious is because there was a very particular way that I had the chair set up to breed really good conversation and unity within the group. That's the way I had it set it up. And the next person had set it up in a very linear institution kind of way. And every time I got to the meeting after leading the big book meeting, I would rearrange the chairs, and I became divisive, and it was brought up at the group inventory for being contentious. And you know what? That's just my nature. If I get used to doing things a certain way and I like a vibe, I will continue to do it in the face of looks and scrutiny and even chatter behind my back. So that is my nature. But since then, I've conceded, and I let people set the meeting up however the fuck they want. And it was freer for me. And I had to learn that it was about the unity and community, which is why I was at the meeting, than for me. So I did have to learn that over time. Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa. Margaret.
Good morning. My name is Margaret, and I'm an alcoholic. And really good to be here. I love the traditions. I've been involved in many step tradition meetings and in service. Beginning of my foundation in Alcoholics Anonymous was with a number of people who were extremely involved in service work. Our delegates to New York, I've known several of them, which is neither here nor there. But what I want to say is Alcoholics Anonymous saved my life. And I believe in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. The West Vancouver Monday night meeting was the very first group I was ever a member of. It was set up, the format was set up by a man who has now passed away. His name was Webb J, and the format came out of Toronto, actually. So my history in AA is all pretty much been in Vancouver, but I've moved around and lived in different places. And yes, the meetings are slightly different in different places, but my heart and my foundation of Alcoholics Anonymous comes from the North Shore AA. And all of those people who were so deeply involved in service work, and like I say, the delegates to New York, etc. And I still have my service sponsors that I go to when things come up that I wonder or question. And one of the gals ran the central office in Vancouver for a number of years, and she and I are very close. So what I see here, because I've really been pondering this since our meeting the other day about exclusive meetings. So what I see in our very first paragraph is we stay whole. We stay whole. And Alcoholics Anonymous is only going to fall apart from the inside, is what I've been taught. And so in the wholeness, as I was thinking, because I ponder these meetings afterwards, I go for walks and I meditate and I think about it and I ruminate on it. And I think about, what is our foundation? And another of the meetings that I'd been a member of just before I left Vancouver, I was 10 years sober, as a member of Dunderave in West Vancouver. And at that meeting, we had judges and lawyers and doctors and we had all people from all walks of life. And it doesn't matter. When we are in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, we are all equal. No one is better than, no one is lesser than. And that goes for family members. Like I was at a West Van AA meeting one night and my father was speaking. And it happened that he was just coming back from a horrible binge. And he started sharing about his alcoholism. And I started crying and got emotional and I ran out. And a lady, a very old timer in the meetings at that time, she came after me and she said, Margaret, when we're in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, we are just another alcoholic. We are no different. So that is the part that is so important to me, is that we are very inclusive and not exclusive. And I actually listened to Bill this morning before coming on this meeting to get some of his insight. I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I do not want to see our egos take off, or exclusive meetings, or people being paid for meetings, or sober coaching. And you know, a while ago I had at our Fort St. John roundup, we had a long, very long sober member come up and share, and he was our guest speaker. But he had told me, and this really upset me, he had told me that some of our circuit speakers were now saying, well, if I'm going to come and speak at your roundup, you know, I want you to book me in at this hotel, and I need to play golf at this exclusive golf club or whatever. So when I was walking the other day after our Wednesday meeting, who are our founders? Bill Wilson, stockbroker. Dr. Bob is a doctor. He's a physician. There was nobody saying, oh, I can't speak to that person because I'm a doctor. Like, we are all have a common bond. And that's what it's about. So in reading, our common welfare should come first, and our groups, and we have to protect our groups. And anyway, it's just really touched my heart, and I've really kind of been, like I say, pondering this, talking to some other members in this last couple of days. We can't be exclusive. And I mean, in Vancouver, so I got sober on the North Shore. We often would go down to Gastown, which is not exactly the nicest area of Vancouver, East Hastings, whatever. You know, we went to meetings there. We carried the message. We're all just one drink away from a drunk. And that I know every single solitary day. And what hasn't happened to me yet is guaranteed. There used to be a man, actually, Lisa, at the West Van meeting, Bob, who would say this every time he spoke. It hasn't happened yet, but it will if I keep going, if I go out. Anyway, so that was just super on my heart, and I really wanted to share that experience, strength, and hope that I have gained in my sobriety. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Margaret. And I love that you mentioned service sponsors, and I just wanted to touch on that for a bit, for if there's anybody new that hasn't heard of a service sponsor before. So we talk about sponsors to be someone to help guide us spiritually through the Big Book and through this program of action as laid out. But like Margaret mentioned, like she has service sponsors. I too have service sponsors that are people with long-time sobriety that know the traditions in and out, who have held different positions of service in Alcoholics Anonymous, who can help guide me even, because I get stumped. I'm new. I'm like only 4 years sober. I'm a baby in Alcoholics Anonymous, and God has called for me to be of service, and so there's things that stump me all the time, and I have 2 service sponsors, and then I have trusted advisors when I'm stumped that I call and I say, I got a situation, I don't know what to do, and they always refer me to the traditions, and that's like the growth, but it's like the personal growth. I always talk about emotional sobriety. That's where I'm like, I find myself getting, mature. At 42, I was just like, I was a kid running around with no clue. So, once you've gone through a set of steps and you're starting to work with others or to do service outside of your home group, I strongly suggest finding yourself a service sponsor. The way I found mine was I was a GSR at a quarterly, and I listened to this man who seemed to know all of the business, and I was like, I want to know more, because that's just the kind of personality I have. Gloriana.
Hello, I'm so thrilled to be here. And what a beautiful meeting. And I love you, Kimberly. I love you, Lisa. Love you, gang. Love you, Margaret. Everybody. If I forgot your name, it's or whatever. But yeah, this stuff is so powerful. Boy, oh boy, I'm gonna go to it and I'm recommending it. And I really related to Lisa G what she shared because I don't know, maybe because we're Scorpios or something. But let me tell you, damn, I was always in the middle of controversies, always stirring stuff up, always I don't know. And it's something I have to really stay vigilant about. It's a very weird time right now with COVID and in the States here, the election and politics and all this other stuff. And it's so easy to just react to stuff. And a lot of reactions, they say, and it's the truth, and I've heard this years ago, if it's hysterical, it's historical. And the interesting thing is that I had a conversation with my husband, and he's in his new growth period right now, and he was talking about therapy and uncovering deep things, and I was kind of in that place too, because we're all doing teletherapy out here in New Jersey, most of us. And what happened is that I just said, yeah, it's because this stuff is so deep. It has deep roots, and often, there were deep motivators with my addiction and alcoholism. It started with alcohol, but it ended with it ended with alcohol and started with alcohol. I used to think, I was getting too old to do other powdered goods, but the reality was that I didn't understand at the time that it progresses. And thank God for the equality in AA and the traditions. They're so spelled out beautifully. And a lot of people break traditions so often. I've done it. I hear other people have done it. And, I love also what was shared about contrasting groups because I do that still. Oh my God, I'm always bragging about 164 and beyond because I'll tell you why. It's alive. It has given me beautiful friendships from people even in New Jersey that I didn't even know and all over the place. And it's opened the world. It's given me a global perspective of AA, but also, I'm telling you, I have a lot of time. Well, I have time. I don't know. A lot of time is relative. It's only about the quality of sobriety. But a lot of my, I belong to a big book for years now, and I read the stories, and some stories, they speak to me and they resonate, and I remember them, and it's like, I love this story. But the line-by-line concept, and even with these traditions, they jump out, they come alive, and it's like it stirs up all this stuff in a good way. And it's just like, oh, damn, I never remembered this before. Why didn't I think of this? Why didn't I latch onto this? This was so rich, and I overlooked it. It was like, I think that that's so much of the disease of alcoholism, because when we're out there, we're missing a lot of beautiful things, and they mean nothing to us. Same thing with reading this literature. It's like you read it and just say, oh my God, I've seen this before, I've read it before, but why did it not stick? But anyway, it's really all I have. I love you all, and I come when I can, and if I have a mellow moment, I come and I check in. Or just listen. And my service thing has been just about inviting people to Zoom meetings. But you know what? It's what I seem to do well, and to get the word out, and that's good. So at least I'm doing that, and I'm trying to do stuff with sponsees, and they're very slippery sometimes. And I realize it's not just me, but boy, these traditions have to remind us that anything that we do could be very divisive. Anything we say, even our own particular, higher power idea. Everybody has different ones. I've gone with some, and they're so higher power specific. And that, I've seen Alzheimer's call people out and say, wait a minute, I'm glad you found this church. I'm glad you found this meditation. I'm glad you found that, that was outside issue stuff. And they say, but this is AA. We got to keep it AA. And they were right. And I try to remember that. Love you.
Thank you so much, Glo. Joanne.
Hi, I'm Joanne. I'm an alcoholic addict. So I'm going to put something out that I don't know the answer to. Preamble. When did the preamble show up in AA meetings? And where did it come from? Because that's one of my favorite readings. Every meeting. what is our primary purpose? Is to stay sober and help another alcoholic achieve sobriety. So I'm going to put it out there, everyone. Where did the preamble? Because it's not in the big book, not that I can find. It's not in the traditions, but it is one of the most powerful things. You know, when I was getting sober in around 81, I had these old timers say to me, "You're too young. You're too young." Luckily, I had enough people around me to say, "Come to this meeting instead." You know, I think that we have to be very careful about how we personally interpret the program, and it's really important to read the traditions and try to live by them. There was another thing I wanted to say. Oh, yeah. I have found reading the traditions, knowing the traditions, standing up for the traditions is really hard. It's really hard. You don't get much feedback from newcomers, but old timers. Suddenly they're proposing things, and you're like, "Can we talk about the tradition?" No. We got no. Can we really talk about the tradition? And especially on really heartfelt things that it makes sense in your heart to do it, but it violates the traditions. And if you violate the traditions, then you start to water down why we're here, why we are here. But I have found the Serenity Prayer very helpful to give me the courage. I'm not saying, I'm going to argue with you. I'm just saying, can we look at the traditions? And I have been a member of a group that has had some of the most insane business meetings. And I mean insane business meetings. And I would sit there and I'd think to myself, I should probably say something because I've been around and asking, am I being a bleeding deacon or an elder statesman? And then suddenly what comes out of my mouth is, where's God? Where's God in the meeting? And then everybody goes, oh yeah. And that's most of the time all I have to do, because I don't have the answer. What we need to do is invoke the unity of the group, the love of the group, the investment of the group to stay in there and figure it out. And though I have to share one funny story, I think it was like my 7th or 8th business meeting at a young people's group. I raised my hand, I got up and I said, y'all are really sick in the head and you should all go someplace and get some help. And they said, you keep coming and sit down and learn and we'll be fine. And that young people's group, I think, is probably celebrating 49 years. Newcomers, what that group taught me is that everybody's voice counts. And old timers that say, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And when you say that, it makes the new people coming in not want to get involved. And if you just have the old timers running around, you're just not, at least as far as I know, you're not completely embracing all that can be from being an AA group. But I had a sponsor, a brand sponsor. This is years ago. We were having coffee and she goes, I went to this thing called a big book step meeting. And I've been sober for 28 years. And I did my 4th step based on Hazelton. And so I went to share and they said, oh, unless you do it by the big book, you can't share. And we were just like, and suddenly the rules got in the way of the recovery. Because she's like, I'm never going to that meeting again. And she missed out on people's experience, strength, and hope. And so we have to be very careful not to dig into our own dogma because when you dig in your own dogma, you end up in your own shit. And I love coming to Vancouver. I also want to know there are some, what you call the clubhouse fellowship meetings over on the East Coast, and people are getting sober.
Mhm.
People are staying sober. So it's not all or nothing. It's not this or that. It's all. And if you have a higher power and you stay open-minded, you'll be guided to where you need to be. And that's all I wanted to share. I love the traditions, but they're hard to stand up for.
100%. And yes, the preamble I was going to say is based on the foreword to the first edition.
Okay.
And in the chat, the historians of the group have looked it up, and it was 1940 was the original preamble, and it was the one as we use now came out in 1947 by the editor of the Grapevine, and it is based on the foreword to the first edition.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And yes, my first meeting, which is now my home group, was one of those you couldn't share at that meeting unless you were a recovered alcoholic who went through their step group. And, I got there and I was like, oh, I made it my mission. I was going to share at that meeting. And I befriended people. And then sure enough, I got to share at that meeting. But it was just like, there's my thought process. I had to break into that inner circle. Lee.
Hi, I'm Lee and I'm an alcoholic. I just wanted to say, when I first started back to AA, and that wasn't after a lapse in drinking, I hadn't been drinking in a long time. I had stopped going to meetings and I started coming back. And there's a meeting that's 1 block away from me. I've always known about it. And it was so fabulous for me to know that all I needed when I decided it was time to go to meetings again, all I needed to do was walk a block. And there they were. They were all there and they were all welcoming. And it's incredible to me that happened. But then the COVID started and the lockdown started and the meetings disappeared. And for some of us, and including myself, that was a scary notion because I was just getting to know my group and it was exciting for me. And when I was it was weird. I went actually and hung around where the door was to the meeting, and I was like, wow, the meeting's gone. And a member came up and told me about the Zoom meetings and told us about the meeting from my group. And then that told me about the meeting from this group. And then this group the 164 told me about the step and tradition. You're all here, and it's so wonderful to see that. I am so glad that Tradition 1 is the thing that says we need to look after our members. We need to talk to our members. We need to stick together as a group. We need to decide things, and we need to pay attention to all our literature. And this is what's exciting about this group. But I also wanted to say that it was so fun to watch everybody here going and getting their papers. Bev got papers. Somebody else asked Google. Everybody was starting to check out what the answer was. Where is the preamble from? So, Joanne, you got a lot of support in that one. And yeah, I just want to say it also, there was a sort of a comment about comparing meetings and so on like that. Well, I've started going back to my regular meeting that's on Zoom. And what I am finding for myself, and I don't know whether anybody has found this out for themselves, but I've started to share more about what I'm learning here. So if they start talking about the steps, I'm like, ngang, 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 ngang. And today I probably will talk about Tradition 1. It's going to come up. So the meetings still relate with each other. So go to the meetings, hear what they say, go to other meetings, hear what they say, and just keep growing. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks so much. And that's the advice, because people are like, how am I going to go back to my home group and listen to that crappy recovery, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, this is where we get to carry the message. We don't go to meetings to take. We go to meetings to give. I always, when people say, I had a bad day, I need a meeting, that speaks to Tradition 1. When they come in and it talks about Joe, the oversharer. How funny is that? anyways, but you know, that goes both ways. It's the same as the person that goes to the meeting and hijacks a meeting with their burning desire to share, and they dump all of their problems on the meeting. A meeting is where we go to find the newcomer and build the fellowship, and so we should be bringing to the meeting. So if we know a meeting that we feel, you know, is a dumping ground for problems, that's where we go and we can speak the solution and not be judgmental. You know, because like Joanne said, all meetings are not created equal, but people are sober at all meetings. And so, you know, we can bring what we have to meetings and add what we can. What does the book say? See, what we can add to the stream of life is the same. We can add to the stream of the meeting as well. Do Bev?
Newcomer.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I was running to get stuff. It's funny, I was working with someone yesterday, and we started to read the big book, and we read the foreword to the first edition. And when we got to this part where it said, we are not an organization of the conventional sense of the word. There are no fees or dues, da 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 da. And I said, and this was the beginning, the very first inkling of what came to be our preamble. And also, I just read Pass It On, and in there on page 206, it says the foreword of that first printing published in April stated, and it says what it said, and then it said, with only a few changes and additions, that statement of purpose would be repeated as the preamble to thousands and thousands of AA meetings every day and for years to come. And that's just really, I'm really excited about learning about where everything came from besides just knowing it was Dr. Bob and Bill. But back to tradition 1, for me, that very first paragraph in the 12 and 12 pretty much says it all, because unity is one of our 3 legacies. The unity of Alcoholics Anonymous is the most cherished quality that our society has. Our lives, the lives of all to come, depend squarely upon it. We stay whole or AA dies. Without unity, the heart of AA would cease to beat. And that's so true. We are a pebble among pebbles, a human among humans, and a grain of sand among the beach. And you know, I do like what Joanne said too about, you know, the meetings are different, and I am very guilty of the comparison or contrast of the meetings, because my home group meets on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, and they've gone back to meeting at the church, but one guy brings his laptop and he's put a wide angle lens on it, and he brings a microphone for it, and he puts the microphone on a chair and passes it around to everybody who's there speaking. Because there are quite a few of us who are health compromised and are not going to go back to the meeting right away. And that's all. I mean, I think that's like almost all I've been talking about was how fantastic, because they don't want to go to Zoom meetings. There are a bunch of them on there that are getting that one meeting a week, and some of them don't even come every week. And it's kind of funny. I've always been a big book. Well, they call me a big book thumper, I guess. But in a lot of meetings that I would chair, even if it wasn't a big book study, I would choose my topic from, you know, a sentence or a paragraph out of the big book, and I would share on that. And I was asked at my home group meeting to stop doing that, because people don't want to hear me read the big book. They want a specific share on steps 1, 2, or 3. And I don't discount that meeting. It's a beginner's meeting. That's where I meet people that are brand new that I can carry the message to, because I do have a message and I do try to stay in the solution as often as possible. But yeah, these traditions were written for a purpose, and unity is very precious. It's a very precious thing. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Bev. Mary Ann, did you have your hand up? Shauna, yeah? No? No. Okay. I wasn't sure if I missed you or not. Susie!
Hello, I'm Suzanne, alcoholic. My friends call me Suze. I just want to say that this book has actually been given to me by a colleague. It was her father's who died. So this is really special to me. It has his writing in it. And I didn't know, thank you, Kimberly. I ran a 12-step ladies group at Kidston, and I didn't know that you needed to do all the steps to actually get into this. So a girl that was asking me to sponsor her wasn't ready for this. So I can see the linear need to do your steps and then get into this once you've had a spiritual conversion. I too went to a place that I didn't understand. I had two groups because I was told to get a home group, that this wasn't a home group. And I made a lot of mistakes. They were wall steppers. The first moment I came in, I was asked, "Oh, who are you? What do you do?" "I'm a teacher." "Oh, I'm a teacher." "Oh, what school do you teach at?" And I was given like the riot act. I didn't know. And I'm a HSP, a highly sensitive person. I didn't come back for a year until I was desperate. So yeah, HSP, we know each other. So I didn't know the rules, and yet after that, people ask me all the time what school I teach at. So everybody's doesn't know what the rules of anonymity, and I really appreciate when you teach me in a soft and gentle way, because I feel horrible if I think that I've hurt somebody's feelings by screwing up the rules. So thank you. I was confused by the wall steppers, the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and yet my group was doing it differently. In Vancouver, we could go 1 to 12, and then we start again. 1 to 12, start again. And my sponsor did something really special. She did the codependent steps right after my 12 steps. I love the fact that you said I'm a baby. I'm only 2+ years. I thought I should know everything. So you said, no, you're a baby. You're still learning. So you're gentle with me. I'm a Sagittarian, so I have no filter. And I go around putting my foot in my mouth. And thank you for teaching me the rules, how to get that foot out of the mouth, how to apologize, I don't do well with confrontation. I'm anxious, avoidant, and I'll take the bus to Calgary if I think I've hurt you. So I did it once. So thank you very much, ladies. You're just giving and giving. And I take this message to my students. I take my message to my neighbors, to everyone I meet. So it's beautiful. Thank you so much. And Joanne, I need a question for you after the meeting. So bye.
Thank you so much. And just to reiterate, these are not rules, they're suggestions.
Oh.
They're not rules, they're suggestions, but we suggest you follow them all. And just to clarify, Prince, no, not now. There's no rule that says you have to do the steps first before you do the traditions. There's no rule of that. I actually think that people should do the traditions first, personally, but we need them to be sober first in order to get this information. There's no hard, fast rule. You can learn it all at the same time if you really wanted to. But the emotional sobriety I found really came from here. Back to Joanne. She's got a follow-up comment. Gotta unmute. There you go.
Oh.
Got you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one of the practical applications of this tradition that people don't talk about, but for me, AA Unity, I keep an eye out for young women coming into the program. I keep an eye out from predators because I don't want them to miss the message because they were used by someone who is very sick. So I don't kick scuzzy old men out, because I have this guy he's been sober a long time and I get a lot out of him, but he's rebellious and he says, you can't kick me out. You can't tell me what to do, but you can't kick me out. And finally I looked at him, I said, but there are traditions.
There are traditions. And, but I just wanted to put that out is as women, and this is a women's group, we need to keep an eye out for the young women that are so vulnerable, and even some of the young guys, but the new people coming in, because not all people are well here, and not all of them get really well. And so that is part of keeping the unity together. The oh, there was something else, but I forgot. Oh well, that's it.
That's right. And like further to that, you know, with what John was saying, yeah, we can't kick you out of AA, but we can use tradition 1 if you're causing disturbance at our meeting to request you go to another meeting. You're not being kicked out of the fellowship, but your disruptive behavior at a single meeting, you're allowed to ask them to go somewhere else until they're better able to participate. And that's in line with tradition 1 and tradition 4. As chance would have it, I've had experience in that department. But, you know, for myself, another furthering on what Joanne said too is, you know, people that come into the program or the fellowship and they don't work the program from the big book. So they leave the fellowship and they say AA doesn't work. And that's damaging to our unity as well. So this is where I think it's very important to carry a strong solution message so that, you know, because it's that whole mathematical thing. If 50% of those who really tried get this and the other 25% get improved, you know, the whole mathematical equation in the beginning of the book. But a lot of people come into the fellowship, they don't get introduced to the solution, and then they leave and say, wow, I went there, it didn't work for me. That's damaging to our unity as well, you know, because once they get introduced to this actual solution, if they try, they can get sober. You Leslie P, got your hand up.
Hi, Leslie, alcoholic. Somebody was just talking, and I remembered when I first started going to AA meetings, there was this one person who was so incredibly disruptive, and he was so off the wall. And I would sit there at the meeting, and I'd look around the table, and I'm thinking, okay, am I the only one that notices that something's off here? And nobody ever addressed it until he finally moved on, you know. But it was really, for a first time being there, I actually thought that I was in like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and nobody was saying anything. So yeah, it was just kind of one of those things, and that's all I had to say about that. Thanks.
Thank you. That brought up a thought as well as with tradition 1. There's conversations that you have in the corner of the room, not in the middle of the room. So, you know, if there is something you notice, we don't want to engage in gossip or anything that could bring harm or embarrassment to someone. So there are conversations we can have in the corner of the room, you know, to try to correct a situation. We don't need to have the conversation in the middle of the room and involve anyone and harm anyone's reputation or personal pride, I suppose, right? We don't want to hurt feelings. All right, so I have some notes that I just wanted to sum it up. So for me, to sum up tradition 1, it's placing the importance of group unity. We need the group to be unified so we can all enjoy sobriety, not engaging in gossip, not being divisive, not taking other members' inventories. If you have a group issue, you can do a group conscience and a group inventory, and the trusted servants from your area actually are willing to come and help you do that. You can always contact your area chair, and she can send someone to your group to help do a group conscience with you and a group inventory. Not to hijack meetings, you know, making it a dumping share or a know-it-all share. Attending lots of meetings and getting involved in service so that you know lots of the function of meetings and of AA as a whole. The more you know, the more you know. All right, ladies, thank you so much for our first traditions workshop.
It was excellent.
Thank you so much.